We're also live on YouTube, so okay. There are around 38 of you on the group. If your friends or your teammates haven't joined, just drop a message or give them the link once again. Around 10 more people are yet to join. Meanwhile, I've shared the link for the answer sheet or the Google form that you'll be filling during the prelims in chat. So you guys can start filling in your details, and we'll start by 6:25. Yeah. One last call for your teammates, and in a moment we'll begin. Okay, I think it's time for us to begin. So, good evening and welcome to the first, rightfully the first quiz of the academic year, the Hemanth Gangadhar Memorial Quiz. Yeah. To begin with, we'll just share a few words about Hemanth Gangadhar and uh, pay our respects by maintaining a minute of silence. So, Hemanth Gangadhar was a very motivated and inspirational person for LSD in the past, and he served as a convener for LSD in 2014 2015, and went on to bag a seat at IIM Ahmedabad immediately after college. Unfortunately, we lost him during an accident, a road accident, when he was touring in Tanzania. And ever since, LSD has conducted the first quiz in his name as a memorial for him. So I just request all of you to maintain a minute of silence and pay our respects. Okay, uh, thank you everyone. So, getting to the business end of the quiz. So, in the next slide, we have the rules for the prelims. So, we have a total of 20 questions in the prelims. First 15 questions are 1 pointers, and the last 5 are 2 pointers with 2 answers each. There are internal tiebreakers, and if you see the bag of gold symbol on any of the questions, it means that question is the tiebreaker. Part points on the questions with multiple answers will be at the quizmaster discretion. Also, I'd recommend one of you to write down the answers on a piece of paper in case you can't submit the form on time. So then you can just send us a picture of your handwritten sheet and we can accept it. Very important instruction is we expect all of you to have your videos on during the entirety of the quiz, and both your hands should be visible. And finally, any incidents or activities that defeat the purpose of this quiz, and more importantly, it being a memorial, will absolutely not be tolerated. So it's a strict warning for you guys to not indulge in any sort of cheating, because yeah, you might make it through the prelims, but it'll be very obvious in the finals, and we've laid enough traps for you to expose yourself. And please remember, we're also streaming live on YouTube, so keep your mics muted at all times. When we're discussing or revealing the answers, you guys can unmute yourselves. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Drishika, who will be taking you through the first 10 questions of the quiz. Good luck to everyone, and I hope all of your videos are on. I also hope you have your forms opened and ready to fill in the answers. So yeah, take it away, Drishika.
Yeah, thanks, Anirudh. Yeah, good luck, everyone. We'll start off with the quiz. First question. Mary Anning was an English fossil collector, dealer, and paleontologist. She discovered many intact dinosaur fossils, including findings that contributed to the eventual theory of evolution. Like her family, she supported herself financially by selling fossils by the coastal cliffs around Lyme Regis, England. As a result of this, what is popularly attributed to her? So I'll give you guys around 20 to 30 seconds. All right, yeah. We'll move on to the next question. Genetic analysis of the various species of bacteria that reside in chewing gum discarded on pavements of different countries. Discovering that the obesity of a country's politicians as an indicator of the level of corruption in the country. Testing the hypothesis that humans evolved to grow beards to protect themselves from punches to the face. So, why were these fascinating pieces of research recently in the news? Think about the nature of these pieces of research. Why would they be in the news recently? 15 more seconds. Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. Of all the humans tested so far, everyone has contained the same DNA from at least one of two ancestors. The first is a mitochondrial DNA traced back matrilineally to a specific MTA, and the second is a Y chromosome traced back patrilineally to a Y chromosomal B. So identify what A and B are. Just there are clues in the question. Just pay attention to some of the words that are used. So you need to identify A and B. 15 more seconds.
Hey guys, small reminder, we want to see your hands on the screen. Please adjust your cameras in such a way that we can see them.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. At a time when computers were still new to the market, users were often intimidated by the complex interface. As a result, Microsoft adopted rather ingenious ways to familiarize users with the various functions of the computer system. X was created to allow users to become familiar with the working of the mouse, specifically its drag and drop technique that is used extensively in X. Y was created to introduce left and right clicking of the mouse and to help improve the speed and precision of mouse usage. IDX and Y, both of which must have made a real dent in office productivity worldwide in early 2000s. 10 more seconds. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Mummification was a practice widespread in ancient Egypt where the dead bodies were preserved through a process of embalming. It was a process entwined with the religious belief of afterlife. However, dead women were often intentionally left to decay for around 3 to 4 days before mummifying them in the hopes of deterring a practice. What practice were they trying to deter? So think about why specifically they would let the women's bodies decay, but not men. 10 more seconds. Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. Please note that this is a star marked question, so we'll use this in case of ties. Richard knew as soon as he took the photograph that it would become iconic, not just due to the immense tragedy that it captured, but also due to its symmetry. The subject of the photograph is nearly vertical and cleanly divides the two entities involved in the tragedy. Much effort has been put in to identify the subject. Some believe it could be a Latino man working in one of the entity's restaurants. Others believe it could have been a sound engineer. What photograph is being talked about here? So this photograph is quite iconic. There's a tragedy involved. Think about the fact that there were two entities involved in the tragedy. Or you could actually say there were two parts of the same entity as well. 10 more seconds. Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. The novel X has been linked to three tragic events in history. After assassinating John Lennon in 1980, Mark David Chapman was found by police casually thumbing through a copy of X. Chapman later claimed that the novel was a statement and that it provided the answer to why he killed the legendary Beatle. In 1981, after John Hinckley Jr. attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan, investigators reportedly discovered a copy of X in his hotel room. And in 1989, Robert John Barlow, who had been carrying the book, murdered Rebecca Schaeffer, an actress whom he had become obsessed with. IDX. So X is a novel. Ten more seconds. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. This is also a star marked question. X was the title of a short story released in January 2020 in a popular science fiction magazine. The story relates the experience of a woman whose gender is assigned as dash dash so that she becomes a better pilot. The story was mired in controversy due to the nature of the title, which is an infamous transphobic meme that pokes fun at the fluid gender spectrum. The criticism grew to such an extent that the story was taken down, and its author, a trans woman, had to undergo therapy. Ultimately, the story was re released under a new title and became critically acclaimed and a Hugo Award finalist. ID the book. So, ID the original title of the book. So, I want the original title. I can't give you the blank part because the blank part is part of the title. Blanks are indicative, I think. Yeah, they are. And yeah. And I need the title, not the blank. The blanks are part of the title, by the way. 10 more seconds. Yeah, moving on. X is a French word for bag bottom. The earliest examples of X were unearthed in a workers' village in Egypt, built circa 1885 BC. The village is laid out with straight streets that intersect at right angles, akin to a grid, but irregular. The western part of the excavated village, where the workers lived, showed 15 narrow and short X's laid out perpendicularly on either side of a wider, straight street. All terminate at the enclosing walls. X's also appear during the classical period of Athens and Rome. The ancients in all towns were for having some intricate ways and turn against streets without any passage through them, so that if an enemy comes into them, they may be at a loss and be in confusion and suspense, or if they push on daringly, may be easily destroyed. X's provide more security in war. It was difficult for foreign troops to enter and find their way about when attacking. X's increased spontaneous outdoor activity by children. A study in California found that the amount of child play that happened on X's were greater than its alternatives. Identify X. 10 more seconds. Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. X was a Fox television 90-minute special. The show's premise was that an adult who had been put up for adoption as an infant was placed in a room with 25 men, one of whom was their biological father. If the contestant could correctly pick who their father was, then they would win $100,000. Identify the name of the show. So think about the premise of the show and how they could have named it in an interesting way.
What's the timeline of the show? Like, when did it air? Is that just
I'm not sure this question is not set by me. I'll check. Good.
Is this like some famous phrase or like something like that, or
Yeah, yeah.
any other?
And it's pretty
Okay.
recent as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty recent. 10 more seconds. Yeah, we'll move on and Anirudh will take over.
Yeah. So the image on the right is, the album art of the concept album, which was released in 1972, and it talks about the alter ego of a musician, a fictional bisexual rock star sent to Earth as a savior. So the photo actually originated during a photo shoot in 1972 when the artist was, you know, leaving from this place and it started raining. So he just stood outside the home of the furriers, XY. So XY in the photo, as you can see, there's a white spot on top which has been blanked out. X stands for the initials of the company founder's surname, and Y indicated it was on the Y end of London. The opening track of the album introduces us to, this whole apocalyptic disaster theme. Coincidentally, what happened 5 years later was that a musical genius with the same name as that on this side was born. And in some ways, this album art became the, predictor of XY's success. So in the answer, we're looking for the famous alter ego of this person and the new, musician or artist who was born 5 years later and named after the thing that has been blanked out. So to get to XY, you can think of a big clue is how the part Y came about. Yes, because Y indicated that it was on the Y end of London. So think about what could fit there and try connecting to artists that have names like that. Then maybe you can work your way to the famous alter ego. Please note that this is a star mark question, so this will be used to break ties. Moving on to the next question, question 12. So very straightforward question. Here you see a gravestone of a certain we want both parts, the name on the board as well as the person involved in the photo shoot. That's for the previous question. Coming to question 12, we want you to identify whose gravestone this is. I'll read out what it says. It says, the best is yet to come. Blank Albert Blank is the name of this person. He was a beloved husband and father who lived between 1915 and 1998. So all the clues that you need to crack this one are in the image itself. So we want you to identify whose gravestone this is. I'll read it out once again. The gravestone says, the best is yet to come. Blank Albert Blank, who lived between 1915 and 1998, was a beloved husband and father. But we probably know him for what he's famous for. Moving on to question number 13. According to legend, as soon as Draupadi was married to the Pandavas, Kunti decided to see if she would create a rift among her sons. Kunti gave Draupadi just enough dough to make one puri along with some potato masala and asked her to satisfy the hunger of all 5 of her sons. So Draupadi wittingly came up with a new dish which is supposed to be the origin for a very, very popular delicacy. So don't think hard on this one. The first answer that comes to your mind is probably it. So we want you to identify the dish. about how she would split it among 5 of her sons, and also the ingredients that are part of it, and the fact that it's a very, very popular delicacy, which all of you must have had. So that's question number 13. Moving on to question number 14. Dave was born in 1977 in Beverly Hills. He was the youngest son of said Lorraine and Michael, who were the disciples of Satya Sai Baba and were very big into Eastern medicine. So Michael is said to have smuggled home a gelatinous mushroom, which he used to brew a very special kind of fermented tea. So this tea was hated by the kids, but the parents absolutely loved them. And in 1994, when a real miracle happened, which was Lorraine was diagnosed with cancer, and they didn't expect her to live for long. She made a full recovery, and she credited this recovery to her family's tea, saying that it is what saved her. Following which, Lorraine pushed Dave to start bottling this family tea, and he began with his dad's recipes. When he was ready to sell it, which is what we know it as, it was called X, which got sold out in 2 days after it being put up on the store. After which Dave moved from, just making a few bowls of it in his kitchen and dining room. He started selling this new kind of fermented tea that was supposed to be very healthy and popular. So we want you to identify what X is. Once again, running through the question. Family which was very big into Eastern medicine smuggled home a gelatinous mushroom which was used to brew a special fermented tea. Supposedly miraculously cured cancer for Lorraine, and very popular right now among celebrities and health professionals and people who are into that. So we want you to identify X. So moving on to question 15. So 15 onwards are your 2 pointers. So I think the form has 2 separate entries for the 2 parts. So please make sure that you put it in the right order. On questions where the order is important, I will let you know. Otherwise, we can excuse the order in case of a tie or things like that. Right. So to begin with the 2 pointers, the first questions here. Question 15. X, who was deemed the empire's hero, served as a... Okay, alright. So for 15, you can just, put it in the single line, and from 16 onwards, you can fill it in the 2 separate entries given. Anyway, so question 15. X was deemed as the empire's hero, served as a military leader during the 1900s, and led one of the most successful military campaigns for his country against the Italians during the World Wars. But the gloomy period of his life began just around the time Y, which is a completely different entity, which was discovered by a person across the Atlantic. In the latter part of his life, he took office as the head of state in a country that was at the peak of its rebellion, somewhere in the middle of the 20th century. And unable to face this growing revolt, the authorities back home in his country decided that they needed to demote him, which happened in a span of 3 years. A very interesting fact about Y which is the other entity, is that Y couldn't see through the end of its own activity, which is synonymous with revolts and rebellions, and also the fact that X had his own downfall or demotion, and in a sense, living together apart, leading the same sort of journey. So we want you to identify X and Y. X and Y in their direct sense are not related at all. Just the fact that their journey spanned across a similar period and coincided for quite a while. One was unable to deal with the revolt in the country he was serving. The other, which is Y, couldn't see through the end of its own, activity, which is very synonymous with revolts and rebellions, something along those lines. And similar to X, it was also, it had its own downfall or demotion, you could say. So I want you to identify X and Y. It's question 15. Moving on to question 16. Michael X was the acting editor on a magazine that lasted for roughly 9 years towards the end of the 20th century. The magazine's end came by through sheer coincidence, but a not very surprising circumstance, since the magazine revolved around denying said disease or symptom, and we can see a repeat of it recently where a lot of people who seem to be denying the existence of the pandemic or not believing the vaccines and things like that have also passed. So first answer should be why the magazine got discontinued. The second part of the question is a Guardian article titled Dash X Parachutes into Politics was published when the said individual claimed that democracy is a sham and pushed for dictatorship. The headline is titled so because the person being referred to in the article did something involving a parachute and coming from the unknown, similar to how it was very unexpected and he was not known in the field of politics because he did something completely different. So the first part of your answer will be why this said magazine got discontinued. The second part of your answer will be identifying X, which is the common surname between one of the editors of that magazine and this person who deals in parachutes. And surprisingly, both of them have very contrasting views with that of peace, I could say. Question 16. Moving on to question 17. In the year 2021, we came across two unique sporting incidents that took place in the span of a few months across two different sports. The first incident took place in the Western Hemisphere in the NBA League when two brothers played each other. The younger of the two mentioned that he didn't intend to play in the same team as his brother because he wanted to compete against him. The second such incident coincidentally happened on Siblings Day. If you know when Siblings Day is, you can probably figure out when it was. And he knocked the ball out of the park when he faced his brother who was in the opposite team, and thus claiming the spoils of war. This is not where it ends. The craziest coincidence of all is the fact that the two surnames we're talking about here, are the two sets of brothers. They sound extremely similar. So we want you to identify the two, sets of brothers or the surnames for the brothers. Put the first one in the first entry and the second one in the second entry. Fairly simple and straightforward question. If you're, big into the second sport, you can try and figure out what the other surname is by, thinking of popular surnames which sound very similar to that, and vice versa. If you're an NBA fan, maybe you can try and fit in that surname into the other sport. Moving on to the next question, question 18. The mafia bosses and mobsters are notorious for their nicknames, specifically, how they originated. X, who's a member of the South Side gang, operated a humongous betting operation through the strips of Las Vegas. And his name comes from his ability to, siphon all these illegal earnings almost magically back to, the Chicago mob, who he served for, who he represented in Las Vegas. MGM Grand is one of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas, which was, initially themed after why. One of the entrances being lined up with cornfields to give a, yellow tint, and the building inside being painted fully green to signify an iconic location from the work, which is why. MGM in itself is a big clue because it leads you to one of the prominent characters in this work, why. And you can see a statue or model at display in front of the casino. Identify X and Y, X being the nickname and Y being the work, which are one word apart. By one word apart, I mean, the nickname slash the work replace one word in each other, and that one word is, related to the fact that X, the mobster, was in the betting business, or casinos and things like that. So if we can figure out the work and then try and fit in the fact that he ran a betting operation into it, you can come by his nickname X. Moving on to question 19. Another fairly simple short question. X is a website that catalogs movies and TV shows that appear in other movies and TV shows. For example, if all of you watched Home Alone, he plays a certain movie within the movie. So this is a website that catalogs all of these fictional movies and TV shows. Its design and name both are inspired by another very popular streaming service, and the image you see there is the logo of this website or entity. So try and figure out what the name of the website is, considering the fact that it's been inspired by a very popular streaming service. Take a good look at the logo and the fact that we're talking about movies and TV shows inside another movie and TV show. Finally, the second part of this is another, entity in the same sort of game, which is a database of cars, bikes, any sort of vehicles that appear in these movies and TV shows. And the name for Y is obviously inspired from another database that deals with movies and TV shows. So the second part is, fairly simple. It's not a big deviation from what it's inspired by. So identify X and Y. Finally, moving on to the last question of the prelims. Shreyas, can you just reopen the slides? Not sure what happened.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Okay, we're back. So yeah, the final question of the prelims, question 20. So Twitch added, recently this whole new category called pools, hot tubs, and beaches, which gave these very controversial hot tub streams a new home on the streaming platform. This came about, after a lot of months of debate regarding whether this type of content belongs on Twitch and whether Twitch itself can offer a better experience. XCon is a new event that Netflix is putting on with Y, and it's the first time we know that the companies have collaborated on anything related to this project that a lot of people don't know. They both individually licensed. Before the event started, while viewers waited, their Twitch stream was put under the pools, hot tubs, and beaches category. Now, considering these facts, what could they be, streaming? I'm looking for a very specific answer. And the second part of your answer will be to identify what Y is. So focus on the fact that Netflix and Y have individually licensed a certain project, which a lot of people don't know. People think that, what Y created was the inspiration for what aired on Netflix. But in fact, Netflix reached out to the source or the author of this individually. XCon is, X in the part is a placeholder. So XCon is something Netflix and this company have collaborated over to popularize their projects. It's something to do with this project fits seamlessly into the pools, hot tubs, and beaches category. So I want you to identify what they were streaming while the audience waited for the event to start, which led them to be under the pools, hot tubs, and beaches category. And finally identify Y, which is the other company which had a project on the same entity that Netflix does right now. With that, I think it's 7:10 right now. By 7:12, we'll be closing all the forms.
You're not rerunning, huh?
Yeah, we'll rerun through this very quickly, actually. Yeah, so can you go back to question 1? We won't stay for a long time. It'll be a very quick rerun. So Mary Anning, an English fossil collector and paleontologist, came from a poor family and supported herself by selling fossils by the coastal cliffs around her. What is this? What did this lead to, or what is attributed to this? Question 2. These are a few pieces of research that were recently in the news. So we want you to identify why they were in the news. Question 3. So we're talking about two pieces of DNA which comes from at least one of two ancestors in quotes. One traces back matrilineally to a specific MTA, and the second patrilineally to a Y chromosomal B. So we want you to identify what A and B are. Question 4. So something that Microsoft did to engage their users in the new interface, how to use the mouse and clicks and drag and drop and things like that. Also made a dent in office productivity worldwide. Question 4. Question 5. When mummification was a practice widespread, women were allowed to, like the bodies of women were allowed to decay for a few more days as compared to men. So what practice were they trying to deter by doing this? Question 6. A certain photograph that Richard took became iconic due to the immense not only due to the immense tragedy, but also due to its symmetry and how it cut through the two entities that were involved in the tragedy. So if you can give the name of the photograph or describe the photograph, you'll get points. Question 7. A novel that has been linked to three tragic events: the assassination of John Lennon, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, and the murder of Rebecca Schaffer. Question 8. Short story that deals with the experience of a woman whose gender is assigned as something, which was a very famous meme that poked at the idea of gender fluidity. We want you to identify the original title of the book. Question 9. A French word for back bottom, something which a lot of children play during, and they are streets without any passage through them, so that enemies get locked in. Question 10. Fox Television 90-minute special identifying an infant and finding out who the biological father was. Question 11 is the alter ego of a famous alter ego, and the name of an artist that is the same as what is blanked out in this album art. Something to do with the company's founder's surname and where it was situated in London. Question 12. Gravestone which says the best is yet to come. Just identify whose gravestone it is. Question 13. So the origin of which popular dish or delicacy which has something to do with the Mahabharata. Question 14. A certain Dave and his family were disciples of Satya Sai Baba and big into Eastern medicine. Some fermented tea that came out of mushrooms, which is a big craze among celebrities and health professionals and things like that. Identify what X is. know what the product is. Question 15. Here are the 2 pointers. So one is an individual that was celebrated for being a great military leader and then sort of lost all his positions, or got demoted, not being able to handle the revolt. Around the same time when this was happening, another entity which was discovered saw a similar fate where it didn't see through, its own activity that is very synonymous with a revolt or rebellion. And similar to X, had its own downfall slash demotion. So identify X and Y. Question 16. So we're talking about a magazine that lasted for only 9 years because the magazine ended in because the magazine revolved around denying said disease. The second part of the question is talking about a person who parachuted into politics and talked about how dictatorship should be the new norm. It's very appropriate considering how this person did something with a parachute and came in from the unknown, similar to how he dived into politics out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. So identify X, which is the surname of this person, which is the same as the editor of the magazine in question. Question 17. Two unique sporting incidents involving two brothers playing against each other. So we want you to identify the surnames of these two sets of brothers, which are quite similar. One happened on Siblings Day and the other happened in the NBA. So happened across the span of a few months. Question 18. So a nickname of a mafia boss that alludes to the fact that he was in the betting business, and MGM, which is one of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas, also draws inspiration from the same work which gave X his nickname. So the work and X differ by one word. Question 19. So we're talking about two services or websites, one which deals with movies and TV shows within other movies and TV shows. The other which is basically a database of vehicles that show up in movies and TV shows. So we want you to identify both. Final question of the quiz, question 20. So the pools, hot tubs and streams category on Twitch, under which this event called XCon streamed for a while when its audience was waiting for the event to start. Another interesting fact is that Netflix and Y, which is another entity, licensed this project individually from the source / author. Thus this being the first time they collaborated with regards to that project. So we want you to identify what they could be streaming. Very synonymous with X here, which has been blanked out, or X is a placeholder here. So tell us what they were streaming and identify Y, which is the other entity apart from Netflix, which has its own project on this same source material. So with that we come to the end of the prelims. 7:20 right now here. So by 7:22 we'll close all the forms. So quickly fill any blanks or whatever other details you want. At exactly 7:22 I'll start counting down and we'll close the form. So when you have around 10 seconds, I'll start counting down. 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, and the form has been closed. I hope everyone has submitted it. Yeah, is there anyone yet to submit? Is anyone yet to submit? Please let us know if you haven't submitted. Otherwise, we'll move ahead with the answers. Once we start with the answers, we won't open the form again. Okay, so last call. I'm assuming everyone has submitted the answers. If everyone has submitted the answers, we'll go ahead with the answers. I think Drishika, you can start giving out the answers.
Yeah, anyone wants to unmute and tell me what they think the answer to this is? Think about the fact that she's selling fossils by the cliffs.
Seashells by the seashore.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, the phrase she sells seashells, the tongue twister, this she sells seashells by the seashore or on the seashore, whatever, is attributed to her. Next question. Yeah, so these very strange but interesting pieces of research, where would they have been in the news? Anyone, again, wants to unmute and tell me what they think the answer is? It's okay if it's wrong.
Is it the Ig Nobels?
Yeah, nice. That's perfect. Yeah. So these were the recipients of the 2021 Ig Nobel Prizes. Next question. Yeah, so
Adam and Eve.
yeah, that is absolutely correct. I hope you guys didn't mix it up. Eve and Adam are the answers. So one was matrilineally descended, the other one was patrilineally descended. And there are two ancestors, so the answer is Adam and Eve. Nice. Next question. Yeah, so these computer uh, entities that popularized drag and drop technique and right clicking and left clicking in very fun ways. So, what do you think X and Y are? Anyone wants to answer?
Is X Clippy?
It's not Clippy.
I put solitaire. Like, I don't know if that's.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, X is solitaire, the drag and drop technique, and Y is Minesweeper, the other game. Yeah, nice. Next question. Yeah, so this one is an interesting one. Mummification. They let the women decay for 3 to 4 days. So what exactly were they trying to do? Yeah, it is necrophilia. That's the answer. Yeah. Um, Next question. Yeah, what do you guys think the answer for this one is? Cleanly divides the two lines. Tragedy. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's Falling Man from 9/11. So if you guys answered photograph from 9/11 of the falling man, something like the basic funda, if not the exact name, you'll get points for that. Yeah, so the novel X related to
Catcher in the
three.
Rye.
Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah. That's perfect. Catcher in the Rye. Nicely done. Next. Yeah, X was the short
Attack
story.
helicopter attack.
Yeah, correct. But what's the full name of the
I
novel?
I sexually identify as
attack helicopter.
attack helicopter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly correct. Yeah. So if you guys gave an answer like I identify as an attack helicopter, basically a funda surrounding that also will accept that. Next. Yeah, this is not super easy. I guess anyone got the answer for this?
Cul-de-sac.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's the answer. Cul-de-sac is the answer. With that, next. Yeah, Fox Television 90 minutes.
Who's your
special.
daddy? I guess, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, who's your daddy? Yeah, next. I think Anirudh, you can take over for this one.
Yeah, cool. So question 11, did anyone guess? Do you have an answer?
Yeah, I thought as Kanye West. It's K West or something was written like that on that thing.
Okay.
And it is
That's
Bowie, right? Stardust, the Stardust
right.
photo or
So yeah,
something. It was good.
Ziggy Stardust and Kanye West
Yeah,
will
Ziggy Stardust. Yeah.
get you points. So K West was written on the album cover. It's a good answer. So Ziggy Stardust was David Bowie's alter ego. So question 12. Did anyone get this?
Frank Sinatra.
Sinatra.
Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra. How
Frank
did
Sinatra.
you get to Frank Sinatra?
The
It's like
thing. Yeah. Best is yet to come.
the best is yet to come.
Okay.
Correct. That's all.
Question 13. Very simple one.
Panipuri.
Yeah. Panipuri is the answer for this. Question 14.
Kombucha?
Yep. Kombucha is absolutely right. That's a good answer. Third one of the tougher questions. Just star marked. Okay, here are the 2 pointers which I said. Question 15. Did anyone get? Any guess for X or Y?
Is X Mountbatten?
Okay, you're on the right track, but it's not Mountbatten. It was the person before Mountbatten. Basically, the one who got demoted. Right. So Lord Wavell was the Viceroy of India during the Quit India movement, and he got demoted from the post of a Viceroy because he couldn't handle the Quit India movement. And similarly, around the same time when Pluto was dealing with being discovered, so both of them got demoted from their status, and Lord Wavell couldn't stop the Quit India movement. And an interesting fact about Pluto is that during the time it was discovered and demoted, it couldn't complete a single revolution around the sun. So that's how it connected to revolts and rebellions. Question 16. Did anyone get this?
Is X Bloomberg?
No, X is not Bloomberg. Did anyone get why the magazine was discontinued? I thought that will be simpler.
He died, no?
Who died?
Denied AIDS. Denied AIDS.
Right, yeah.
Something
So
like that.
that's what we were looking for. So basically,
I put denied AIDS.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you have anything to do with HIV or AIDS in the answer, you will get points. So the magazine basically denied the existence of AIDS, and all the editors and members of the magazine died due to AIDS or AIDS related conditions, which is why the magazine was discontinued. X was Baumgartner. Not sure if you've heard of Felix Baumgartner, who did the
Yeah.
jump
Largest
from
jump, no?
space.
Highest jump.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. So coincidentally, they shared the same surname. So I thought parachutes and unknown connecting to space would get you to it. Question 17 for all the sports
This is
fans.
Ball,
Curry
ball.
and Karan, right?
Yeah, Karan is right for the second one. First one is Curry.
Curry, yeah.
So Stephen Curry versus Seth Curry was in the NBA, and Tom Curran versus Sam Curran in the IPL this year. Question 18. Did anyone get this?
Is X Al Capone?
X is not Al Capone. X was a nickname. So I mean, if the answer were Al Capone, X would be Scarface, right? That's what he was called. But that's not the answer.
It's why something related to Wizard of Oz.
Yep. Y is actually Wizard of Oz. The yellow tint being the yellow brick road and green signifying Emerald City. And the nickname for this mafia boss was the Wizard of Odds because he dealt with betting in casinos and things like that. Question 19. Did anyone get this?
The TMTB something, TMDB and IMCDB something like that.
Right. So for the second part, IMCDB is correct. So it just is a blatant riff off of IMDb, which is Internet Movie Car Database. The first one
We
is
got
called
Netflix. Wow.
Nestflix
Complete guess.
because
Complete guess.
the
Nesting dolls.
yeah. So the logo for it is the dolls which fit inside each other, and going with the theme that they catalog movies and TV shows which are inside other movies and TV shows. So Netflix was the answer for that. Coming to the last question. So did anyone get this?
Yeah, it's I think the Geralt in the bathtub and the second part, the company is CD Projekt Red.
Yes, absolutely right. That's the perfect answer. So while they waited for the event to start, they had Geralt in the bathtub, which is a very iconic scene from the game and the TV series that's being run right now. And the company is called CD Projekt Red, which is why I kept emphasizing on the word project, hoping some of you will pick that up. Yeah, with that we come to the end of the prelims. 6 teams, or 6 of you from here will go on to the finals that we'll have around 4 p.m. tomorrow. So we'll announce the top 6 by the end of the day. So yeah, so thanks once again for attending the prelims.
Yeah,
And
thanks
good
a
luck
lot,
to everyone.
everyone.
We'll
Good
give
luck.
out the results
Mm.
before
Great,
the end of
okay.
the day.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Cool then. See you everyone. Good luck for
Okay.
the
See you guys. Bye bye.
results.
Bye bye.